Welcome to This ADHD Life, a podcast for people with ADHD, those who love us, and yes, even those who sometimes struggle to love us. Happy New Year to all you ADHDers out in the audience and all of those that love someone with ADHD. This is Keith, Coach Keith, and it is January 31st as I record this. I have to admit, it has been on my to-do list now for 3 weeks to record another episode of the podcast, and I don't know, maybe it should have been on my to-do list to go and listen to my last episode where I said that a lot of times for me and for many ADHDers, we just sort of need to take the month of January off. We need to sort of do the bare minimum that we can do because it's sort of like the post-holiday thaw. Our brains can kind of be frozen from all of the stuff that we had to do, the family interactions, even the good family interactions can sometimes exhaust us. And the more I talk to people, both in my volunteer work and through my coaching practice, I realize that this concept really does unite us, that many of us have sort of this ability to get overstimulated. And I was talking actually to someone with autism last week who mentioned that when he is out in public for long periods of time, he spends the next couple days in bed with blackout curtains and a white noise machine because that's his way of re-energizing. And the funny thing is that ADHD or not, re-energizing is something that we all have to do. Didn't take my own advice. Now I did get the bare minimum done. I started a new coaching client. I continued some of my volunteer work, got some business stuff done, fed myself, slept, self-care. But instead of giving myself the permission to just not record a podcast in January, I decided no, I was going to make myself feel bad about not recording a podcast 3 weeks in a row. And in fact, today I record because it is the 31st and I'm like, darn it, Keith, you're going to get an episode out before midnight Eastern on January 31st, 2017. And that's what I plan to do. It might be a short episode. I have to admit, not too much planning going into it. The other thing that's happened recently, if you're from the U.S., you may know that we have a new president now, and with that comes the usual political drama that is all over 24-hour news, and this year it seems all over Facebook as well. It's really interesting how Facebook seems to have become a political platform, more than a place to share cat videos, baby videos, and just updates on new jobs and great stuff. I'm almost wishing that people would start blogging what they're making in their kitchens again. It's like, I can't believe that I missed the food photos, but I actually missed the food photos. Anybody else? Am I alone in that? And no matter which side of the political aisle you fall on, there is fallout from this because if you very much support everything that's going on with the president's executive orders and all of that, then you're sick of hearing the people that don't support it. I've seen this on various Facebook feeds, quote unquote, whine. Likewise, if you don't support it, then you're probably one of those people that are posting a lot about it on Facebook or just getting as much information in as you can. And that's a common theme that I've seen in some of the other ADHD Facebook groups I'm a part of is help me. I can't stop myself from reading all of this stuff. I'm constantly checking news. I'm constantly looking at Facebook and responding to posts and all like that. Last episode, I mentioned that a number of years ago, I had an idea for kind of quarterly goals. And at that time, I thought the perfectly quarterly goal, starting sort of in February, would be to rein in control of one's finances. And I think it's still a decent goal. It's certainly, post-holiday season, you've hopefully paid the credit card bills from maybe an overindulgent Christmas, or you've at least gotten over the shock of how much you spent on food and gifts and dining out and travel and all that. And you can start to assess how you actually want to spend your money, how you want to dig out of debt if you happen to be in debt, how you want to invest more if you're not in debt but you're not investing a lot, and how you want to spend your money. But before that comes intentionality. I'm going to leave that blooper in, but intentionality, doing things with intent. Because in order to get your finances under control, in order to stop checking Facebook and all of the news sites all the time, in order to do anything, to start your self-care routine, it all starts with intent and really picking and choosing what it is that we are going to allow into our lives. And again, ADHD or not, this is true of everybody. If we have a limited amount of closet space and we decide to fill it with onesies from eBay, then guess what? Some of our professional clothing is going to be sort of crowded out of the closet. Now, unless your job involves wearing a onesie to work, which if so, please write me info@thisadhdlife.com because I would love to pursue a job like that. Although, frankly, since I coach by phone, I suppose that I could get away wearing a onesie all the time as well. I think that would be too warm, though. Likewise, when we choose what we're going to buy, we're directly impacting our finances, though, right? So if we decide to go out to dinner every single night of the month, we're choosing that expense over something else. And so maybe the real thing to work on to start the year, rather than finances or any of the other areas that I'll be mentioning throughout the year, is really starting to focus on what it is that we choose to let into our life. I don't choose the word let lightly. A lot of times it can seem as though all this stuff is being forced on us. I have to do this. My mom wants me to do this. My dad wants me to do that. My kids need me to do this. My cat's forcing me to do this. My husband, my wife, my partner, my business partner, my job. All right. Sometimes in a job, they can sort of force you into doing some stuff if you want to keep your job. But even that, you let into your life. You choose which job you want to be at, which career you want to choose, what you want to study if you've gone to college, how you want to make your money, how you want to spend your money, as I mentioned before. And so I started this sort of exercise of intentionality. Wow, that's a tough word. Earlier in the month, because frankly, I woke up one day and I realized that I was overscheduled and getting nothing done because I tend to lock up. So the more sort of tasks that I have going on that I'm not accomplishing, my sort of inner computer just locks itself up and I can't get anything done. I'm very effective at controlling a remote control and, watching different videos on YouTube and, getting plenty of sleep, starting, 7,000 to 9,000 books, complaining a lot. I'm very, very effective at that. But I realized all of this stuff that I had let into my life, I did let it into my life. I chose it. But I also let it into my life, and I knew that some stuff had to start changing. And I sat down one day and made a list of everything that I wanted to do and how many hours per day or per week I could do it. And I came up with, something like 16 hours a week were going to be unscheduled between sleep and everything else. And I didn't like that. I got feedback from my partner saying, that's all I get a week. Well, yeah, but you're you. I want more than 16 hours a week. I want lots of time to be able to just sort of spend and do what I want to do and recuperate and all of like that. So I've spent the past few weeks just kind of examining what it is I can cut out of my life. And I think maybe that is the key, as I mentioned, is starting to think about what is it that you really want from your life? What is it that you have in your life right now that supports that vision and that goal? What is it that you have in your life that doesn't support it? Actively doesn't support it? And then there's other stuff that just sort of weighs down on it. So some of the volunteering I do, for example, would be in that category where there's a few things I'm going to have to scale back because while I very much like doing them and I would like to do them, I realize that I can't do all of that and do my self-care and coach new clients and attract new clients and do this podcast and prepare dinner for us. And by the way, my mom moved down here, help her out with stuff and learn new stuff and take care of the business aspects of my business and meet with tax attorneys. I can't do all of that and have any quality of life that I am happy with. Does this sound familiar to anyone? I sure hope it does. If it does, please either email or even go to Facebook, facebook.com/thisadhdlife, and just comment on the post for this podcast there. I would love to hear some feedback about whether this is resonating with folks. So now that I know what has sort of gone wrong, what sort of sent me off the rails a little bit, I can analyze it. As I mentioned, I can figure out the stuff that I can either get rid of or, finish up quickly and then not take on new projects of that type. And I've realized that I really do need more unscheduled time than 16 hours a week, which may sound crazy to some. Maybe some of you think that you only need 4, maybe some need 40. Right? If I don't know, if I could get paid for a complete week of unscheduled time, I might do that. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a short show because my goal, my intent was to get a podcast out in January. This is the podcast for January. My intent is to get a couple more out in February. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about the finances at that point. But I don't want to sit here rambling on and taking up more of your time. Instead, why don't you, take the next 5 or 10 minutes, because these shows are normally about 20 minutes long. Take the next 5 or 10 minutes and really have sort of a think on what's in my life right now. What do I want more of? What do I want less of? What can I give up? How difficult will it be to give it up? Will I disappoint some people? Am I okay with disappointing those people? Is it actually to my advantage to disappoint those people? Or do I not want to disappoint them? Are they very important to me? So I actually want to try to put more of a priority in that area. And if so, then what can I give up instead of that? Right? Because at the end of the week, we all have the same number of hours. We all have a certain minimum requirement for sleep. And yeah, sure, that fluctuates, between an hour or 2 a night. But for the most part, humans require somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. That's all of the latest research that I've seen. And by the way, don't get perfectionistic about that. I used to try to make sure that I would wake up on a 90-minute sleep schedule because I saw something in Lifehacker that said, you sleep in 90-minute cycles. So set your alarm for, 6 hours, 7.5 hours, or 9 hours, but never set it for 8 hours. And they reran it recently, and I chuckled again because that just didn't work for me. And I was being perfectionistic. So anyway, that's it. Quick show this week, as I mentioned. I appreciate your subscription on iTunes. I appreciate even more a review on iTunes. I get it if maybe this wasn't a 5-star episode, so maybe wait till next week. Please do go and like the Facebook page, facebook.com/thisadhdlife. Oh, and by the way, right now I've changed the little button on that page that now says book now. I do free coaching. I mean, that's all an introductory call is basically a 45-minute to an hour-long conversation that is basically free coaching, getting to know each other. No obligation. If you've ever thought about it, feel free. Thisadhdlife.com, of course, is the website, but as I mentioned, you can see it on Facebook as well. So, as I say every week, have a good couple weeks. It might only be a week this time. I'm analyzing all this stuff for myself and trying to, wind down the projects that really don't speak to Keith and really ramp up the projects that do. And anybody that's a small business owner and even not, taxes are due this time of year. So I have a whole bunch of stuff going on with that. That is stuff that, technically I let into my life by running a business, but still the government sort of makes me do it. That's it. Remember, if you cannot take care of yourself, if you won't do it, if you won't take time to examine what you're going to let in your life, how are you going to take care of anybody else?